It's no secret that I believed Assassin was one of the bottom two when it comes to archetypes, and with it being mostly carried by Blade Dancer, I considered it not really playable because Blade Dancer can just be improved by Executioner, whereas Assassin crutches on Blade Dancer. However, now that we've got the Shearing Strikes fix, we actually have a lot more variety of builds that we can go in and do with it. Namely because of Breakthrough. Breakthrough increasing the attack economy makes it a lot better. However, there's still a lot of limitations with Assassin that I would like to see improved, which is mostly the fact that openings do not work on extra turns, so you have to wait for main turns, which means that the main strategy for using this is not really supported by how you want to play, because on the higher difficulties, it's all about being able to go first and one turn before the enemies can kill you, because even with buffs, defense just doesn't keep up with attack, and dodge isn't always reliant, because even at 600% dodge, you can still be hit. Beyond this, however, Assassin is now very enjoyable. I've actually been liking the playstyle of slowly setting up damage with Breakthrough and then finishing up with a big hit for Killing Edge. On the Psycho variants, it is still very strong. However, Breakthrough is still just an infinitely worse Death from Above, and it can also just often be very buggy. There'll be times where there just seems to be invisible walls where you're in the position, you haven't used Slash, and for some reason you just can't click the person. And that there's no reason you shouldn't do, and if you change angles, suddenly it works. It's also a bit buggy when it comes to diagonal hits, but other than that, then it's actually now much more engaging to play. The problem is, like I said, you need to be chasing openings which are only accessible on main turns, and then you have the talents to set them up further on main turns, but that means that you need allies to have done that. The other issue that I find with it is incredibly item reliant. There are some really good power spikes that you'll see, so the build does progress, but with the fact that Blade Dancer exists, it does make the warrior version feel a bit bad, but it is still perfectly playable, even if it's just more honest. I actually don't really see that as a negative, that you have natural progression points, because it gives you something to work towards, and you can actually feel the power increase. And yes, by the time you get to Act 4, you do just suddenly go from a fairly middling build to the strongest build in the game, bar short of correctly setting up Executioner. But yes, the Death Aura is probably going to be something that gets nerfed, because the more that we see it, the more we use it, the more the devs see it, the more chances it is going to be getting a nerf. So unlike Vanguard, or even Operative, I don't feel like Assassin needs a full rework. I would like to see some improvements to Slash, and maybe even a little bit more of supporting gear, but that's something that could always come in the next DLC. But overall, I think Assassin's now in a really good spot. You can make a very good Blade Dance build, you can make a very good warrior build, but when it comes to actually then looking at some of the other things, like, say, Sword of Faith, I think Sword of Faith, especially per soul, does need some buffs. But that's not really Assassin specific. But yes, I've added more Assassin builds to the sheet, so if you wanted to go try those out, then yes, they are going to be very fun. I've got a few knife variants which use Drukhari weapons, because obviously with the 1.5 Drukhari weapons patch, it's now a really good time to be a agility-based assassin that uses Breakthrough, because there's going to be lots of ways that you can stack agility. You'll have Desolation and you'll have a Finesse. So yes, as we get more items and adversaries, we've had new knives around that, we've had new Drukhari swords. These are all going to be very useful and very viable, and especially the access to knives. Now, some of the best knife setups, like the Ritual Knife, I don't think is currently obtainable. I've been told rumors it's dropped by Cultist. Originally, it was dropped by Conrad in Act 3, but then suddenly you can't access his body, and apparently you were meant to get it as a reward for Mirazhi's quest line, where you trade him to a demonette, but that doesn't seem to give it to you. And I know there is a community bug fix mod that does seem to give that to you, so I'm not too sure. But yeah, if you're going to use those, you don't really need to focus on those items. They're mentioned on the spreadsheet, but you can use any of the other knives. And again, just as long as you're proccing willpower checks, it's going to be very strong. But yeah, that's all I really had to cover the Assassin thing. I actually just think it's in a really good spot. Yes, it's not as strong as an Arc Militant. Yes, you could use something similar with, say, Master Tactician and using Breakthrough. But Assassin obviously has some unique gameplays. I would like to see Notes and Weakness become a talent, because I feel like it could be implemented a little bit better into it, because the fact that it's so item reliant, like your build not being online until Act 4, does feel a little bit bad, and especially because of all the other stuff you get in Act 4, the sudden power creep is unbelievable. But the damage itself, as you slowly build up, like you just saw in Act 3 here, I just hit a character for about 900 damage. And this is before I've had all the online items, such as the helm to be hitting openings, such as the notes and weakness itself. So there is a lot you are going to do. Like I said, it's just a very few small things. Openings not working on extra turns doesn't feel good. Certain items being reliant also doesn't feel good, but it's not too bad. But the biggest issue is still we need Act 4 and Act 5 content, because when a build comes online at Act 4 and you have nothing to fight, that's just disappointing. But we'll have to see what the devs do.